Welcome once again to Troopathon.org, the Troopathon 2010. I'm Mark Williams, and joining me is the Associate Editor of Newsbusters. It's and a small business owner in Northern California, where I am these days. He writes for the Fox Forum and the Washington Examiner. Noel Sheppard, how are you? It says political expert on the card. You're a political expert.
I think that's probably a bit of an exaggeration.
You're a media expert. You've been following the media coverage of our troops and,
Yes,
of our conflicts. And there's been a marked change in the last, since January of 2009.
Well, what's interesting is we did a study, Mark, the Media Research Center did a study back in 2006 that I think that your viewers will find very, very interesting. In May of 2006, the whole Haditha thing came to the front pages again because Murtha had said that the troops there had killed innocent civilians.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so all of a sudden the media went nuts over this, and for a 3-week period, ABC, CBS, and NBC news divisions, and this would include the morning shows and the evening shows, they did a total of 3.5 hours worth of coverage in a 3-week period on this Haditha incident. Mm-hmm. Okay, now by comparison, what's really amazing is in the 5 years roughly since 9/11, from September 11, 2001 through when we did this study in June of 2006, there had only been a total of 52 minutes devoted to our war heroes. Now just imagine that. I mean, to try to put that in perspective, 3.5 hours in 3 weeks means they did about an hour a week, okay? But yet, during the 5 years subsequent to 9/11, they did roughly about 10 minutes a year on heroes from Iraq and Afghanistan.
Ernie Pyle's spinning in his grave.
It's shocking stuff. And the other thing that was interesting about this study is they didn't do any coverage at all of 14 of the top 20 most decorated members of our military coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan.
Why is that? I mean, you examine this, you look at this, you study this. I mean,
right.
What is it about things going well that causes them to not want to cover it?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. Well, you set me up very, very well.
Thank you.
I've got another example of this. This is from October of 2007. And if you recall, in September of 2007, Petraeus had just spoken about how the surge was going well, and of course everybody was calling him terrible names. MoveOn.org referred to him as General Petraeus.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's interesting is the numbers came in from Iraq. The troop casualties were the lowest in September of 2007 than they had been since the war began. Mm-hmm. But the media totally ignored it.
Yeah.
Okay, and to give you an idea of just how screwed up our media are, is Howard Kurtz of CNN, Washington Post, he does a program on CNN called Reliable Sources. And he had Barbara Starr of CNN and Robin Wright, who at the time was with the Washington Post. And he had them both on, and he said, why didn't you folks cover this news? This is great news. We've just seen a huge decline in casualties. Why didn't you cover it? And they both said, well, it's because it's really not a trend yet. It's just 1 month.
I remember this.
So he then says, okay, but if the casualties suddenly went up, you'd report that.
Yeah.
And they said, well, yeah, because that would be newsworthy. So we were in a very peculiar environment while Bush was around. All of the bad news got stressed, and all of the good news, and by the way, we could also discuss this from an economic perspective, that all of the bad news, any bad economic news would come out, this would be front and center. Good economic news, not so much.
Highly partisan media coverage is what we're
Highly partisan media coverage. What was interesting is Byron York did an article in the Washington Examiner in 2009. In December, I think, September. And he was talking about how when Bush was in office, the media were all in a lather because he didn't want any of the caskets, the flag-draped caskets being shown. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the media were all up in arms about that. But Obama comes in and he says, well, no, you're now allowed to show that. Well, by September 2009, the media were no longer interested in showing that. So it was really just a bash Bush type of a thing. Bush is trying to prevent information from being disseminated, et cetera.
You know, there's an attitude that we ran into when we were over there on one of our trips. One of the days we were in Baghdad, a homicide bomber took out 27 children.
Right.
Who had gathered around a U.S. Army Humvee where the troops were moving in to play soccer with the kids and,
right.
and distribute baby formula. And as we were sitting stuck at the airport, on the military side of the airport to leave in this horrible sandstorm, we were talking with a UN official, and we were talking about that. And the UN official said to us about that incident, isn't it a horrible shame that you Americans put those children in that position? And that became the media narrative.
That's
sure
right.
enough,
That's
when
right.
we got home, that was the media narrative of that incident.
Right.
Where does that come from?
I think that you basically just have a natural anti-military bias in the media, and especially when you have
But
a
I grew up
Republican
during
president.
Vietnam. How come I'm not out there burning American flags?
Well, because you're not a liberal media member, you're a conservative media member. So it makes you a little bit different.
It must be. It doesn't affect all of us, apparently.
No, it does not.
All right.
Luckily for us.
Luckily for us. All right, Noel Sheppard, political expert, right, at Newsbusters. We've got Debbie Lee standing by with a bit more on the donations coming in and how much we've got. And please keep it coming. We've got like an hour and change left. Melanie wants $1 million, and she'll hurt me if we don't. She wants $1 million. She's blonde. Give her $1 million.
I'm a crazy woman right
She's
now.
a psycho blonde.
$1 million.
Debbie Lee at the code board.
That's right.